Pittsburgh Columbus 59-60. Columbus minus 130, total 5.5. Slightly shaded to the over, about minus 110 to minus 120 in that range, depending on where you look. This is really a big game in terms of home ice advantage in the first round. That's really what's on the line here. You've got Pittsburgh at 96, Columbus at 96. Regulation and overtime wins is the tiebreaker right now that is currently giving Pittsburgh the edge, even though they're tied in points. That will be the tiebreaker that decides it. So Columbus has to finish ahead of Pittsburgh in terms of points. If they end up tied after game 82, Pittsburgh would get that second spot ahead of Columbus because of the row category, regulation and overtime wins. That would be the decider. So it's a big game here. Columbus, I don't know if they maybe a look ahead against Detroit, because that was not a very clean, crisp, sharp performance from Columbus, not even close, but fell behind 4-1, had to rally from the death to come back and beat the Red Wings the other night, 5-4 in overtime. So maybe they were guilty of just maybe looking ahead to this game a little bit. Very well could have been the case. It's a huge game. It's Pittsburgh. They don't like Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh giving them grief, giving them problems in the playoffs multiple times. And if they play them again, which is a very good possibility now, this could be I want to send a message night here for the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're at home. Pittsburgh's a little bit more vulnerable on the road. I kind of do have a lean here actually toward the Columbus side, believe it or not. Minus 125 to minus 130 in that range. I think you really want to see them show a message. This is not message sending time for Pittsburgh. You just go out there, treat it like another game. You've won 2 Stanley Cups. You go into this game and say, hey, if we win, great. If we're not, so be it. It's not the end of the world. We've been there, done that in the spring. For Columbus, this is more of a message sending game, I think. I think this game, I don't want to say it means more, but I think Columbus gets more out of it with a win than maybe Pittsburgh would, just in terms of psychologically, mentally, and is able to maybe say to Pittsburgh, hey, if we face you this year, it could be a different story, because we know Columbus has been bounced from the playoffs multiple times by this Pittsburgh team in recent years. So I'm actually liking Columbus here. It's not a horrible price, minus 125. I've got that. And again, we've got this total 5.5. I'm on the fence with the total because it could be one of those games where, you get teams digging down defensively, but, you don't get Pittsburgh games 5.5 even money to go over the total very often. And that tells me that there might be some value looking over the total here in this game. And again, we saw Columbus, fall asleep defensively the other night against Detroit. Maybe they show it tonight. It was just one of those games Detroit didn't inspire them, didn't interest them all that much, so they weren't great defensively in front of Bobrovsky. Maybe that changes tonight, but Pittsburgh's got firepower, and it's going to test this Columbus team. And Columbus is going to get Josh Anderson back tonight. He's been out for a while. He's got a career-high 17 goals this season in 61 games. He's unfortunately going to be relegated to a bottom 6 forward role in the first few games since coming back because, their offense is rolling right now, Columbus. And John Tortorella doesn't even want to really tinker with his top 2 lines. So Josh Anderson's going to have to slip into a third line role probably. But still, it's another weapon. It's another offensive force and more depth to this Columbus team, which offensively, during this great run they've been on the last month, they've taken off. They've been a very good offensive team. I've talked about Matt Murray. He's been not exactly a stalwart since returning from that concussion. He's got to find his A game. He's still searching for it, as far as I'm concerned. So bottom line at the end of the day, over would be the way I'd go in this game if I were to play the total. Andrew McGinnis, this is his first game. Jackets taking on the Penguins. Great matchup. Home ice advantage on the line here. Well, at least it's going to go a long way to deciding it. Andrew, what do you like?
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that lean, Ian. I mean, I think the fact that we're seeing 5.5 right now has to kind of open everyone's eyes at least a little bit. And, I think that more and more last year and the year before that, we kind of started checking out these trends, guys. And, we would see in the playoffs and, in these big games leading up to the playoffs. And right now they're kind of battling it out for home ice in the playoffs. A lot of these teams, you used to see lower scoring games in really tight games. Teams would buckle down defensively, but even this Columbus team, I used to kind of describe them as more of a defensive, chippy team that wins those low-scoring games. But I think with these two teams clashing right now, we're getting the 5.5, and the way these two teams have been playing, I can't really see them just slowing down all of a sudden. And Bobrovsky and Murray, they've been known for being good goaltenders. Obviously, Bobrovsky obviously a lot more experience, but I really do think that both of them right now have been involved in some high-scoring games. And just like you've been saying, Ian, Murray has to get ready for the playoffs. He has to get locked in because all playoffs long, we can't have him getting three, four, maybe five goals let in a night. But you know, Penguins are 5-1 in their last six Thursday games, but Columbus, a lot of stats for them in favor for tonight. They're 10-1 in their last 11 versus the Eastern Conference, 4-1 in their last five versus the Metropolitan. But I'm looking at the over tonight, like I mentioned. The 5.5 is just very appealing to me. I've been going on all year, and I've always spoke about the reason why I think that this Penguins team has won back-to-back Stanley Cups is their depth, and is the fact that they have so many people, so many bodies that can contribute on a nightly basis. That it really does keep you guessing, and it keeps the opposition honest. I mean, they cannot just keep one line out there. They can't just rely on defending one line, because just when one line goes off, there's another one out there ready to attack you. And I think that's important to think about when you're betting an over. Is really just is this a one line team, or is it a team that can have depth and everyone can perform? So looking at this team ultimately, like down the middle, top line right now is literally Gensel, Crosby, and Rust. And then last year, if you would have told me that before the playoffs, might not have believed you. But now second line, Hagelin, Malkin, Hornquist. I mean, when you've got a guy like Phil Kessel, I don't care what anyone says about Phil Kessel. You got a guy like Phil Kessel on your third line. That just goes to show how good your team is, honestly, because this is a guy that shows up and he'll make the plays when he has to. And to have him down there as your third line right winger, that to me that just shows the talent level on your team. And looking at the history between these two teams right now. In the past three games here, Pittsburgh has averaged 4.33 goals per game in the past couple three games these two teams have played. Columbus 2.67. But having said that, they've averaged 34 shots on goal. So personally, for me, a lot of the odds are favoring it. The over is 10-1 in the Penguins' last 11 road games. As we know, the road's been a little bit more sloppy for them than at home. And for the Columbus Blue Jackets, the over is 4-0 in their last four overall, but more importantly, 5-0 in their last five when their opponent scores two goals or less in the previous game. So, they can't always have a defensive style game. And head to head, the over is 5-0 in the last six meetings between these two teams. So, the old me and, a couple years ago or last year, I might have said these two teams are going to collide for a really low scoring game. But I think at this 5.5 number, you got these two teams battling at it. I don't think they will be digging deep defensively, Ian, to quote what you said. I really do think that this game is going to be just fully offense tonight, and let's ride early with that 5.5.
It's a changing of the guard in the NHL, and Dana mentioned it in one of the previous games we talked about. These desperation spots, these big games, everybody throws everything but the kitchen sink at the opposing net, and a lot of these games are going more over the total than under. I mean, that's just the way it's going in a lot of these instances. In the new era of the NHL, 20 years ago, if it was a big game, a game 6 or game 7, you'd get a little tighter play. You'd get a 2-1 game, 3-1 game more often. Now you're getting goalies or coaches that are pulling goalies down 2 goals with 4 minutes left, for crying out loud. In some instances. So again, you've got situations where I find, it's in these big games, you're going to see this in playoff time, especially elimination games come playoff time. You're going to be hard pressed at least I'm going to be hard pressed to make strong cases for unders in game 6s, game 7s. When we're talking about elimination situations, you will see I either bet overs or I pass on the total when we get to those game 6, game 7 situations, elimination for one or both teams on the line, because you just worry that there's going to be that our season is done if we lose this game mindset. We've got to fire every puck at the net. Rack that up, see if we can get a garbage goal that way. We will pull the goalie early if we have to, if we're down a goal or two. So all of that contributes to me making it difficult to make a case for unders in those spots. And we talk about it here, Pittsburgh, Columbus, two teams that are Pittsburgh's great offensively. Even without Derek Brassard, they've been very, very good still. Wait till they get him back from injury. I mean, they'll be even deeper. You're right. Phil Kessel on a third line right now. That tells you it's an embarrassment of riches for this Pittsburgh team. I mean, that's your third line. Phil Kessel, Riley Sheahan, and Connor Sherry. I mean, that is absolutely that's a third line. That could be this first or second line on a lot of teams. Gensel, Crosby, Rust, top line, Hagelin, Malkin, Hornquist, second line. I mean, just so much depth right now on this Pittsburgh team. hard team to bet under. Columbus offensively, hard team to bet under right now. Their offense has been great. They get Anderson back. So I like Columbus. I'll have a small play on the over. I'm more on Columbus in this game, minus 125. Andrew likes the over, 5.5 as well.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.